MedStar is reminding us all to layer up. Really important also to know the signs of hypothermia. The wind chill factor can cause you to lose body heat and fast. They advise wearing 3 or more layers from the waist up and at least 2 layers below your waist. MedStar also says you should not ignore shivering. That is a sign that your body is losing heat. When that shivering stops, that may be a sign of hypothermia. You may also experience confusion, slow, shallow breathing, and even slurred speech. Any numbness, redness, or pain in any skin area may be a sign of frostbite, so keep that in mind. Several warm
in Fort Worth, emergency teams with MedStar shifted to their extreme weather response protocol. That means patients who need emergency help outdoors get a higher priority response. And now is the
freezing temperatures making their way to North Texas pretty soon here. Experts are recommending some health tips to make sure you and your family stay safe. Matt Zavatsky of MedStar joins us this morning to really explain some major reminders. Good morning to you, Matt.
Good morning. We're getting ready. Are you?
Good. Glad to have you here. You know, one of the health issues MedStar is concerned about is the risk of frostbite and hypothermia, something we saw 3 years ago during that historic cold snap. How can people protect themselves, rather?
Yeah, you couldn't even mention what happened 3 years ago. We're still having PTSD, but we've already had 3 patients that we've treated for hypothermia, and it's not even really cold yet. So people should be very aware that going outdoors in the next 24, 36, 48 hours is potentially life-threatening. Limit your time outdoors, stay indoors, watch football tomorrow, don't go outdoors, pay attention to the weather.
Yeah. What are some of the signs that someone may be experiencing hypothermia, and what do you do from there? I know you said stay home for the game, but you know Cowboy fans are going to be out in that cold.
And they're going to be tailgating, and they're going to be doing all those crazy things. Shivering is the first sign that your body is telling you that it's time to go into a warmer environment, because shivering is a way for your body to generate body heat. So that's the first sign that you're starting those phases of hypothermia. Left untreated, that can go into some confusion. It could go into some nausea, vomiting, general uncoordination. Those are all signs that you really need to get into a warmer environment, and that folks should start helping you rewarm and probably consider calling 911 at that point.
Yeah. What are some things I guess people should avoid as we dip into these freezing temperatures in the next few days?
The biggest thing, especially with the holiday and the long weekend, is to try and avoid alcohol. Alcohol tends to dull the senses and impair your judgment. So alcohol, contrary to popular belief, does not make you feel the cold less. It just makes you not notice it less. So try and stay away from alcohol. If you do need to go outdoors, make sure that you're bundling up, cover every part of your body, especially cheeks, ears, head, your hands for certain. And then most importantly, also check on the loved ones, especially homebound elderly. Those folks generally don't turn their heat up that much because they're trying to conserve limited financial resources. Check in with them a couple of times a day. Make sure they're doing okay over the next couple of days.
Yeah, Matt, now you got me really worried about those fans tailgating tomorrow. You know, let's talk about people at home whose heaters may not be working. They have really drafty windows. Any advice for them?
Yeah, be very careful. We also respond to a lot of carbon monoxide poisoning during this time of year. January and February are our 2 busiest months for carbon monoxide. Just remember that using auxiliary heating like a stove, even if you're going to be using your fireplace, certainly don't run generators indoors if you have a power failure. Don't warm up the car inside your garage. Those are all things that could lead to an increased level of carbon monoxide. And it's not too late, not a bad idea to go out and get a carbon monoxide detector if you don't have one.
Right.
Keep it in your house, and just make sure that you're being aware of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, Matt, thank you. Great reminders this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the Arctic air, it can be unbearable if you stay outside for too long. Joining us with more on what you need to do to protect yourself if you go outside is Matt Zavatsky from MedStar. Good morning.
Good morning. It's nice and balmy out there today.
All right. Well, this is the first real cold weather we are experiencing. So what should we know about cold weather? Like, what are we about to experience over the next few days?
You know, as Kylie's reporting, this is life-threatening weather for many North Texans, especially folks that might not be originally from here. So this is a great day over the next couple of days, actually, to stay indoors, try to limit your time outdoors. If you do need to go outside, cover everything on your body. Don't forget about your head, your ears. We've already treated 8 patients in the last 2 days for hypothermia. and none of them, trust me, expected to get hypothermia.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long can people actually stay outside if they do plan to do that?
A lot of it depends on the temperature and the wind chill specifically, but also their underlying medical conditions. But in weather that we're going to be seeing over the next 36 hours, people should not be outdoors more than 30 minutes or 60 minutes, because as soon as they start to shiver, that's their body telling them that it's time to go in if they're trying to maintain their body temperature.
Absolutely. It's so important to listen to your body. You know what? We've got the big game today, the Cowboys against the Packers this afternoon. So can you remind people of what to do if they're going out later on today?
Yeah, again, cover everything, dress in layers, make sure that you're staying warm. I know this is going to be hard for the tailgaters, but try and avoid alcohol. Alcohol does not make you warmer, does not help preserve your body heat, but it impairs your ability to recognize when you might be suffering from hypothermia. So if you're going to be out tailgating, have great brisket, great barbecue, but certainly try and refrain from using alcohol.
And, you know, there are some people out there that do have to get out there and drive. And in case they get stuck out in the roads, what are some things that they can keep in their vehicles just in case they get stuck? You know, a safety kit or some sort.
Yeah, great question. A couple of blankets, you know, one blanket for every person who might be in your car, a well-charged cell phone, good snacks, so high protein, high carbohydrate snacks in case you do get stuck for a couple of hours and need to maintain some food and some food intake. Those things will help dramatically. If you get stuck on the road, stay in your car. We respond to so many cases where people get out of their car when their car is stuck and they get hit by another vehicle. Stay in your car, call 911, follow their instructions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to speak with us this morning. I know you're busy out there, and I can't thank you again. And be safe out there as well.
Thank you, too.
All right. Thanks.
Of course. Let's talk about MedStar here. They say their first real cold weather is arriving, and this is what they're dealing with. They're encouraging area residents to protect themselves against serious health problems that can result from exposure to the cold. Check this out here. Here's a few guidelines to follow. Good reminders as well, right? Lower your risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Please wear cold weather appropriate clothing such as the gloves, the mittens, hats, scarves, and insulated boots, especially if you plan to be at that Cowboys game today. Know the signs and symptoms of hypothermia, like shivering, confusion, and shallow breathing. A big one here, avoid carbon monoxide. Last year, MedStar crews, they treated 27 patients for carbon monoxide poisoning. The most common months were January and February, and 6 of the patients were under 10 years old. So operate all gasoline-powered devices such as gas-powered heaters outdoors and never bring them indoors. Also, please be very careful when using other heating sources like stoves and grills. This will help to ensure your safety from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Temperatures were in the teens most of the day and topped out in the low 20s. Where is your coat?
At home.
Tarrant County ambulance provider MedStar has been busy.
The good news is we have not had any carbon monoxide related calls yet. However, we have had 8 patients so far that we have treated for hypothermia, and that's just in the last 24 hours. With the anticipated wintry precipitation that's coming, we are getting ready for a large number of motor vehicle crashes in the evening and overnight.
ERCOT Sunday called for Texans to conserve energy Monday morning, saying reserves are expected to be low during peak demand.
New this morning, first responders in Tarrant County say they have treated 20 people for hypothermia since Friday. MedStar says more than half are outdoors. They've also treated one elderly woman for carbon monoxide poisoning.
Certainly, this is a big concern with the freezing temperatures we're experiencing right now. Joining us is MedStar spokesperson Matt Zavatsky. Appreciate you waking up early with us, Matt, because we have heard reports of patients being treated for that carbon monoxide poisoning. What can you tell us about that risk?
Yeah, that particular case was someone who was warming up their car in a garage with the garage door closed, and the grandmother who was living with them began to suffer from carbon monoxide poisoning. So just a great reminder to your viewers to make sure that you're being diligent with things that are running motors, generators, heaters, cars. Need to be very careful.
Okay, so have you responded to a large number of wrecks overnight? What has that response been like for you?
Since yesterday morning, we've responded to about 20 motor vehicle crashes. Fortunately, most of them have been very minor. Only about 9 people have had to be transported to the hospital. But as you guys have been reporting this morning, the roads can be very unpredictable. So if people are going to be out and about this morning, just leave a little early, slow down, pay attention, help avoid us meeting you by accident.
Matt, your crews that are out and about on the roadways, what are they telling you about the conditions they're seeing now?
The conditions have been relatively good. One of the things that we monitor is the road conditions to see if we need to continue responding to calls, lights, and siren. Oftentimes when the roads get really bad, we'll suspend light and siren operation just because of the danger. But so far we haven't had to do that because the roads are relatively decent.
All right, Matt, we appreciate the insight and the update. Thanks so much. We hope your crews stay safe out there.
You too. Thank you.
All right, let's get over to Greg Fields right now.
Alone. Well, emergency responders are urging people to use safe heating sources as they watch for and are actually responding to some possible carbon monoxide poisoning in North Texas.
MedStar in Tarrant County says it's treated one person so far during this cold spell. Gasoline-powered heaters can cause odorless gas, especially if they're operated indoors. First responders also urging people to really be careful with things like stoves or grills to generate heat.
Joining us now is Matt Zavatsky with MedStar in Fort Worth. Matt, it's great to have you with us this afternoon. I know it's been somewhat of a busy morning. Talk about MedStar's response so far today in North Texas. What have you seen and dealt with?
Since the Arctic blast came through the area, we have treated 20 patients for hypothermia, and that's 14 just yesterday. We've had several more this morning. So this is life-threatening weather outdoors, and we really want people to be very careful.
Definitely want people to be careful. We talk about hypothermia when we have this frigid weather, but some people are familiar with the term, not so much what it is. Explain for our viewers, Matt, what hypothermia is and some of the first signs of it.
So hypothermia occurs when your body temperature begins to drop below what your body likes to have as an acceptable level. So most people know that the body's preferable temperature is 98.6 degrees. When the body temperature drops below that, your body begins doing things to try and generate body heat to keep the temperature up. One of the most primary things that your body does is begin to shiver. That muscle contraction actually creates energy, creates heat. It's an attempt by your body to maintain body temperature. If you're outdoors in this type of environment and you begin to shiver, that is your body telling you, hey, I'm getting cold. I don't like this weather. Can we please move back somewhere where it's warm? So if you're outdoors and your body starts to shiver or you're with someone who's shivering, that is a really good sign to start moving into somewhere where it's warmer. If you stop shivering, that does not necessarily mean that is a good sign, because if your body drops to a temperature where it can no longer sustain that muscle contraction, that's an indication that you're going into a profound hypothermia.
In terms of the body and the body's response and hypothermia, is that a factor for everyone, or is there sort of, if you've been in cold weather before, you can better tolerate it? Let's just debunk some myths.
Yeah, let's be honest. North Texans do 110-degree weather pretty well. We do not do 10-degree weather very well, regardless of where you're from. So we do see a number of people who think that they're hardy enough to survive. I'll just be out for a few minutes. That is really not the case, especially when you factor in the wind chill. So when you look at the thermometer and you see, oh, it's 17 degrees, that's not so bad. But when you've got a 10 or 15 mile an hour wind, which is what we're pretty much experiencing throughout Texas right now, that drops the temperature to the real feel of below zero. So you have to consider the real feel or the wind chill when you're talking about the temperature outdoors, and that can create hypothermia, frostbite, other issues much more quickly than it may look like on the thermometer.
Have you had calls for slips and falls?
We have not yet. We've been very fortunate. The precipitation that was anticipated hasn't been as significant. There has been some. There was some around my house this morning, but the roads were pretty well treated. A lot of people took to heart preparing their sidewalks. Our fall volume has not been that terrific right now, but we're hoping it stays that way.
So are we. Along with hypothermia, what else is your crew worried about during this Arctic blast?
We worry about carbon monoxide poisoning. The 2 months where we have the most carbon monoxide patients is January and February. And that's because carbon monoxide is a byproduct of incomplete combustion. That could be from your heating system, because maybe you don't use your heat that often and it doesn't get serviced or maintained the way that maybe it should. So when the heat's on for an extended period of time and it's not working well, carbon monoxide could build up. We also unfortunately see a number of people who try to use auxiliary heating in their home. We've had people use charcoal grills. We've had people try and use their stoves. We've had people use fireplaces that don't have good exhaust or vents coming from the fireplace to the outside. All of those can result in carbon monoxide poisoning. So if you are in your home or in your apartment and you begin to feel lightheaded, you have a headache, you're a little bit nauseous, those could be signs that you're suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. And it's a good idea to call 911, let us come out and check you out, make sure that you're doing okay.
Great advice, because you can't smell it, right? It's something that you will just know the different symptoms that you're having, and also trying to keep warm by having the engine running inside your garage. That's another step that we don't want you to take. We do know that there are about 25,000 customers who are without power across the state, and they may feel desperate wanting to stay warm. That's why we're reminding folks about warming sensors and shelters across the state. What other advice do you have for Texans as it regards, hypothermia, carbon monoxide, or just staying safe during this Arctic blast?
Still have some time. Run out and get a carbon monoxide detector. This is the very beginning of the winter season, so we may actually have the opportunity to use that again. But just be cognizant, use good diligence, and use good reason. Make good choices, as we like to say. Stay indoors if you can, drink hot chocolate, and watch football.
And watch football. There you go. Matt Zavatsky with MedStar in Fort Worth. Thank you so much for your time. Now, another
One thing that could happen if not properly covered is hypothermia. MedStar Ambulance Services in Fort Worth has already gotten 18 calls for people experiencing hypothermia. More than half of those individuals needed to be taken to the hospital for treatment. We talked to the doctor at Parkland Hospital to go over the symptoms we all need to be paying attention